Vasudevendra Yogindram Natva Jnana Pradam Gurum Mumukshunam Hitarthaya Tattva Bodho Bhidiyate. So I'm just going to turn back to this long verse, Atmakaha. It starts with Atmakaha, several verses back. And then we said Stula, Sukshma, Karana, Sharira, Vyatiriktaha. So it is other than the three bodies. Pancha Kosha, Tita, Sun. So in other words, it is distinct from the five covers. So we have covered three bodies so far. So this means five covers are to be covered. Five covers are to be covered. It says then, now what's the direct nature? Sat Chidananda Svarupa Sun. So the direct nature, this is the positive. These are the positive words for Atma is Sat Chit Ananda. We covered this, and also Avastha Traya Sakshi. So Atma is also the witness of the three states. Okay? So this was, and therefore Sa Atma, this is Atma. And then what the book asked, what is the gross body? And we said it's made of what? 5 elements, and its efficient cause is karma. And then it moved on to the subtle body. It said its material cause is the five gross elements for the physical body, 5 subtle elements for the subtle body. And what's the efficient cause for the subtle body? Also karma. Okay, so karma fashions you. You are sculpted uniquely. You are enjoying this body, this strengths and weaknesses, and sometimes we get born as great intellectuals, right? And you have a natural propensity for certain skills. Mozart, he was attracted to music from an early age, and he was born within a family of musicians. This is karma, in other words. So whatever life you're enjoying, this is what your own doing. So who has put you here? Who has put you here now? Your own doing. The doer who does not remember him or herself is the same doer now here in this body. So there is a doer. This is called the doer, the person. So this person was in some other body, and whatever that body has done, right, at some other time, whatever consequences they have accrued, is what this body is now enjoying or not enjoying. Okay, so this is and therefore this is how we explain the circle of life, the circle of life. So this means what now? It means that we have a responsibility. We cannot say, well, poor old me, what can I do? The doer has ability to uplift themselves. So this is karma. Now, when I say the word karma, see, karma has 2 definitions. And this is why it's so confusing, because we keep on saying karma, 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 karma. The first definition of karma is action. So this is a karma. Action of, this is a karma of picking cup up. Karma of talking, this is karma. But the second definition is actually karma pala. This is the result of this action. So look at this, karma of drinking. And what's the karma now? I've satiated my thirst. So this means, see how it can get tricky. So if we say, if they say, oh, that's your karma, what are they saying? That is your karma pala. That's the result of some action you've done. And sometimes, you will say, oh, because we're here, why? Because we're doing karmas. So this means because we're doing actions. Okay? So two definitions, action and result of action. And so we have to discern which one we're using. I did karma, therefore I got karma. I did action, therefore I got result of action. And the other two words that are used is punya and papa. Punya and papa. Again, they have two words. Punya, you can put like a little plus next to punya, just a plus, it means positive. So punya, definition one, means a meritorious action, a virtuous action, a wise action. Punya, definition number two, is a result of that virtuous action. Okay? So this means now we've got papam, which is, you can put a minus there. It means a unwise action, okay? Something that's, silly. And the consequences of an unwise action. So these two definitions are to be discerned when we talk about you did karma, therefore you now, are enjoying punya and papam. You're enjoying the results of your good virtuous actions or the results of unwise deeds. These are two popular words including karma. And then the subtle body, we said what consists of 17 components. How does it go? It says 5 satkarma janya. So it says sukha dukkha bhoga. Pancha, so 5 organs of 5 faculties. It's a better word because organ, you think physical, right? 5 faculties that enable perception, 5 faculties that enable action, 5 physiological functions, and the antahkarana. So 5, 5, 5, 15. And antahkarana, we said, has 2 modes. One is fluid mode and one is concrete mode. The fluid mode we call mind. This is the doubting mode. And the concrete mode, this is the decision maker, the decisiveness. This is the buddhi. So when we say buddhi, we mean the concrete mode of this inner instrument called antahkarana. Okay? These are all very popular words to be known. And then we talked about organs of faculties of perception. What are they? And we said we already know these faculties. However, what we did miss is it talks about what? Devatas. Now this is a confusing, it's not appropriate. We'll put this at the end of the whole course, devatas. Otherwise you'll be like, who are these now, gods of these senses? There's a logic for this, which will make sense later. It says what? God, air, space god. What? So we'll see at the end. But there's a nice logic behind that. And then 5 faculties that enable action. Same. Okay, with this, and then they got devatas finished. And then what? Karana Sharira. We finished. Anirvachaniya, we said, yeah. Okay. And then what we've done, Jagrata Avastha, we've done the waking state. And then we've got the dream state. Okay, so Swapna Avastha Keti Chet. Swapna Avastha Keti Chet. Okay, so what is this dream state? So Jagrata Avasthayam. So in the waking state, so whatever was seen in the waking state, this is the waking state, whatever was experienced in the waking state, whatever pains and fancies and people you have met in the waking state, whatever was unresolved in the waking state, especially, all of this stuff comes out, as the name here says, vasana, as a deep impression. They come out as impressions in your dream. So your dream is nothing but an expression of the waking. So this is why you will never see anything in your dream that you have not seen in your waking. Now you say, well, I have seen a man with a tail. Well, this is because you've seen Hanuman, maybe you've seen a leopard who has a tail, and now symbolically you're calling this fella in your dream a monkey, by attaching a tail. And that's the dream's way of kind of, coping with pressures. So dream is a state where, all of the bottled up pressures, it's like shaking a soda, right? And then in the dream, it's just popped open, and then it just releases under high pressure. So dream, sometimes we will try to analyze the dream. However, dreams are not to be analyzed, even though they can help you. But they are just there to, it's the brain's way of solving unresolved problems in the waking state. In some ways, it can help you. For example, I used to dream of my dad and I always having a fight in the same house, in the same room, and I dreamt of this for 5 years straight. It was so tiring, so exhausting. I was, oh no, not another night of the same dream for 5 years. And what does this indicate? There are some unresolved issues with the father. And so by this, you can now apply some process in the waking state to go through forgiving or some kind of a conversation to reason out. Yeah. So now these vasanas, what does vasana mean? Vasana means impression. Actually, specifically, it means fragrance. So if you spray a fragrance right now, then you go out and you come back. See, when it's first there, it's strong. But even if you come back after some time, the traces still remain. So impressions that we build in this waking state, they are like fragrance. They really have a, you can smell them. You can smell them in your behavior. You can smell them in your words. And so they all come out in our dream. And then nidra samaye. So nidra samaye, so this means that in order to enter the dream, you first have to die. The waker has to first die. Otherwise you cannot, if the waker didn't first completely, if you didn't die to the waker, then what would happen is you would see the waking overlaid or mixed with the dream. So even scientists will say, they will use their instrumentations to show you that even if you take a 10-minute nap, you will see, how can I first die? How in 10 minutes I begin immediately dreaming the moment I take a nap? Well, because you don't remember that moment, that short period of death. You just don't remember that. But believe it or not, you have died to the waker in order to begin the dreamer. So in other words, what? Waker dies to the waker, and then you got two doors. Either door one could be to be half awake, this is called dream, or it can be fully asleep, this is called deep sleep. So dream is technically called being half awake. There's something that's still awake. Your subtle body is awake, but it's not fully awake. So these two doors you are presented upon. And what's Atma called?
The things you see in dream state, is this only impressions from this life, or can it be also impressions?
Excellent, excellent. So now what we're speaking of is the dream state is also a possibility, is you can remember potentially symbolically some things that have happened in previous lifetimes. It's very hard to tell unless you remember your dreams, first of all. But it is definitely, we've got like ibogaine. This is another medicine, as some people may know or not know. They use this as in hospitals, in certain hospitals, to treat patients with lifelong addictions, and this will facilitate, powerful visions. But amongst those visions, what they will say is, I saw a world which is even more real than this one. I was there, and I remember actually, being in this place. I remember that place. So their brain will be induced in a way that it will suppress, that conscious mind for a moment, and so your unconscious impressions will create pictures that are consistent with what's happened before. So yes, it's possible.
I also think the beginninglessness of the dream is a great analogy for our beginninglessness, because you never remember the beginning of a dream. It suddenly...
Yeah, so sure. So this is a certain theory of creation, which is, that is just sort of, you've always been here. However, we cannot discard science also, because we can tell that we share, at least 98% of primates' DNA, and even of rats. So there's a lot of indication that we human beings evolved. We did evolve. We go through a human species. We did evolve, and appendix, for example, it's unused. This little, it's appendix, right? So maybe that's one indication. There's many indications in the body to indicate that we have gone through an evolutionary process. So, Earth first, and then sort of, as I said, species, worms, monkeys, dinosaurs, right? You cannot discount that. And so we got our chance. See, the dinosaurs were still here. We would not get our chance. And what's Atma called? Atma, in reference to the dream, so you in reference to the dream are called Taijasa. Taijasa. Taijasa just means identified with your thoughts, like highly identified with your thoughts. Now, Taijasa means specifically bright. So this means a dream has a brightness to it. It's very sharp and very bright, because this is how your mind is. It's a very bright, when you identify with your mind, everything's just bright and shiny and sharp. It's got a definition. So, but, either way, Atma, you, are identified with what's called vrittis. Now, vritti, this is one new word, vritti. Vritti does not mean thought, even though you've heard this, vritti, because in a dictionary it doesn't say thought. Vritti means mode of being, status of being, the status of the modification of the mind, which is essentially nothing but thought, isn't it? But technically it's the mode of the mind. So therefore, Atma is identified with what? The modes, the fluid modes of the mind. And therefore, Atma is now called Taijasa. And in your dream, what happens? You become the creator of your dream. You literally become, what we call Brahmaji. You become the creator of your dream. The whole dream is just what? Your own personal, private, subjective creation. It's nobody else's. And so that is really just an expression of your mind. Okay, 58. Atha sushuptyavasthaka. Atha sushuptyavasthaka. So, okay. Oh, aham kimapi na janami. So this is the direct experience of a deep sleep. I don't know anything. I don't know anything. See how, notice how it's present tense? It's not I knew nothing. If you were to define directly, I don't know anything, except you can't say that in sleep. But if you could, it would be right now, I don't know anything. Not even the subject, not even the object. So there's no subject, there's no object, nothing. And what did you see in sleep? What did you see in sleep? I saw nothing. Therefore, I knew about nothing. Okay? And then, sukhena maya nidra anubhuyate. So by me was what experienced, by me was experienced. It says sukhena. This is strictly incorrect because you did not experience happiness. You are of the nature of happiness. It's better to say what I experienced absence of dukkha. I experienced absence of sorrow. Therefore, what came out? That which was there all along. Yourself, which is sukha. So I experienced absence of any form of sorrow. I did not experience my nature because you are fullness already. So now, how do you know that sleep was fullness? If it says, aham kimapi na janami, I did not know anything, then how do you know that you experienced fullness or happiness or peace in deep sleep? How do you know then?
Because we are Sat Ananda.
Hmm?
Because we are Sat Ananda.
I mean, sure, we are. Yeah, we are that. I was certainly there in deep sleep, and now I'm here in the waking. But how do we know that? There's different ways to find out. We can say, before sleep, what do? You make sure. How did you even know that there was fullness? How do we even prove that you know that there was fullness? That's a better question. How do we prove that you know that deep sleep is fullness, even though it says, I did not know anything? So therefore, how do I prove that deep sleep was fullness? And so what? What do you do before you go to sleep? You make sure there are no bugs in the bed, the pillows are prepared, it's warm, it's cozy, it's not going to create any discomfort. You make sure that the experience is going to be completely guaranteed, comfortable from beginning to end. Now, would you do this if you knew that deep sleep was painful? No. Why do you make the bed so comfortable? Because I do not want to be woken up. I do not want to exit that which is fullness. Would you do that if sleep was pain? No, you would be hardly waiting to get out of sleep. So this means what? I want to ensure that my sleep is uninterrupted, implies what? That sleep is, by definition, fullness. That means there's something about you that knows that deep sleep is fullness. It is a pleasant, enjoyable experience. And at the same time, who likes to be woken up without any proper reason during deep sleep? You don't want to be woken up. In fact, we're disturbed. We're emotionally disturbed when we're woken up for some silly reason, like a dog barking or children playing. So this means, again, that you know that whatever that state of deep sleep is, even though your life is not there, whatever that place is, it is nevertheless still full. It is still pleasant. Implies what? You must have thus been there in deep sleep, which means that you don't need your mind or body to exist, because deep sleep, by definition, there's no mind, there's no body. So we are enthusiastic to enter deep sleep, and we are reluctant to get out of deep sleep. So this is everyone's experience. showing, therefore, that we understand that we are in the deep sleep. This analysis shows you that you are very much there, even though this means what? Aham kimapi na janami. I did not know anything. So this means that ignorance has not covered you. You understand? Because you still know that there was fullness. So who is this I that didn't know anything? That's called the mind. That's called the mind I. So I did not know anything, but still, I was still there. And how do you know you were there? Because you're reluctant to get out of deep sleep and you want to make sure that your deep sleep is uninterrupted, which what implies that there is knowledge of the fact that deep sleep is indeed peaceful. How do you know it's peaceful? Because you, Atma, were there all along. So this is the purpose of the analysis. It's not the deep sleep. The purpose of the analysis is to recognize that I didn't go anywhere. And therefore, we call Atma aluptadrik. You heard this word, aluptadrik? Alupta drik means the one who never blinks. So imagine, for example, the light shining and your body wakes up. And then your body goes to dream. The light is still shining. And then your body goes to deep sleep. The light is still shining. The body wakes up. The light is still shining. The body lies down, dreams. The light is still shining. So what? One light that never blinks. And then there's this person called your name, waker, Vishwa, the one who's got karta bhokta, doing their thing, sitting down. And then they go what? Into taijasa, into dreamer, and Atma never blinks. And then they have their little discussion in the dream, whatever happens there. And then what happens? They go into deep sleep. And aluptadrik, the one who never blinks, constantly, right? This constantly is there. And what? Again, there's a waking. Aluptadrik never blinks. So therefore, Atma is like the one that never blinks. Aluptadrik. This is what they say in the scriptures. Just like the light. The light is just shining there, illumining the three states of experience. One experience, light shining. Another experience, light shining. Another experience, light shining. Another experience, light shining. Like this all your life, right? Movement, changes, beginnings and ends of every state. And yet, what? The light constantly, aluptadrik atma, constantly shining, bringing light to all of these changes. So what does this mean now? It means that you never went anywhere. This means that you were always present to the massive, incredible amount of changes that ever happens to you. So this is again to be used as an inquiry. And now, in deep sleep, what happens? All of your roles are gone. Like if you're a beggar, you're no more a beggar. A king, you're no more a king. So we can have two people falling asleep, and what happens? They're now both equals. That means now the king no more has privileges, and the beggar no more has any worries. So this means the beggar and the king roles are completely stripped away in deep sleep. And therefore, deep sleep is the great equalizer. It's, in fact, now what do they call Atma? They call Atma you. They call Prajna. So when Atma is identified with the deep sleeper, Atma is called Prajna. Now, Prajna means wise. Why would I be called wise in deep sleep? It doesn't make sense. We just said, deep sleep, I knew nothing. We just said that deep sleep equals ignorance. And yet now I'm being called wise.
Because you're not identified.
Unfortunately you don't know it. Unfortunately you don't know that, okay, so there's a very good. So there's a logic for this. So for one who's yet to discover their truth, right? This person is called an ajnani. Just put the word a in front of a jnani, and that's an ajnani. So a non-wise fella. For them, they're identified with their roles. I am this, I am that. All life, they're identified with roles. So there's not one moment, maybe a few moments, doesn't matter. There's not one moment, more or less, when one's not identified with something. And so what happens is, you know, they what? Those roles, for the first time, they're disidentified with those roles in deep sleep. And therefore, but unfortunately, they don't know it. So now they're free of all roles, but they don't know it. So this freedom from roles is exactly what the wise person, the jnani, understands. Despite the roles, I am free of all the roles. It's a direct now understanding. So for a jnani, they understand it all the time. Despite the roles, I am not the teacher, I am not the student, I am not the swami, I am not this. Right? These are just roles. So this means the ajnani, the non-wise fella, for the first time, what attains or reaches the understanding of a jnani, but unfortunately doesn't know about it. Therefore, they cannot make any comments of it. So for this reason, Atma is called the wise one in deep sleep.
Can I have a question? What happens when the wise man goes into deep sleep? The wise man, the jnani, when he goes to deep sleep, is he also gone completely?
Exactly the same, jnani, ajnani, exactly the same experience. Because in deep sleep, what happens is, you know, where there's an identification with what we call I'm going to get to these gunas. There's a certain identification with a quality that temporarily suppresses one's identity. But in the waking state, they know who they are. So the experience of the dream and the deep sleep is exactly the same, you know, between a jnani and ajnani. Although it's very possible to know your nature, you know, in dream. It's very possible if you have, you know, if you're alert enough to know, to understand I am now in the waking state, and that I am, the familiarity of that I am to be equally there in dream.
Not in sleep.
Not in sleep. Not in sleep. Yeah.
But after death, the wise man remains aware of the fullness. That's the difference.
Yeah. So after death, after physical death, the body passes away. Yeah. Sure. So after death, the wise fella remains as oneself. So not that they're aware of something, but they're aware of themselves, which is ananda, fullness. Yeah. Except now they're no longer what I'm aware of my body, but what now I'm aware of myself as fullness. Right. So that's the only difference. Now, you know, myself, fullness, what I'm aware of this much, right? But after death, the physical body is dropped. What happens? I'm with the same familiar I am, but now it's not restricted by the boundaries of any form. Okay, it's infinite fullness. Okay, next page. 5 covers. Panchakosha ke, anamayaha, pranamayaha, manomiyaha, vijnanamayaha, anandamayashcheti. So this is 5, see they're called 5, see the sheath, the word sheath. It means exactly the same as cover. They're synonyms. Sheath or cover are synonyms. So maybe we'll stick with the word cover. So the 5 covers. So now what does it say here? So the first thing to understand is what is this cover? Cover is something that if I cover this cup, right, You no longer, you know, my hand is here. I've now covered my hand. Okay, simple. So in other words, now I see it, now I don't. So, but you know, is the hand really gone? The hand's not really gone at all. So, you know, it seems to have covered, but the existence of my hand is not really gone. So this means to see the hand, you have to what? Remove you have to, not that you can remove it, but you have to cognitively understand that there is still a hand. Because look at this. See, there is a hand. How do you know there's a hand? Because this is being held. The piece of paper is being held. So cognitively understand, even if I cannot remove this cover, I don't have to remove this cover because, you know, there must be a hand behind. There must be a hand for this paper to be kind of held like this. Okay, so it's a cognitive understanding. Despite the cover, there's no actual cover. Okay, so what does it say? Now, but when does it become a cover? It becomes a cover for Atma, for you, when Atma commits a mistake and thus identifies with one of these 5 orders of experience. That's when it becomes a cover. So now the word Maya, it says Ana Maya, Prana Maya, etc. Maya. This is not the other word that you know of because this doesn't have 2 long A's. The other word has 2 long A's. This Maya doesn't have 2 long A's. Therefore, in this case, the word Maya has 2 definitions. And we have to know these unless, otherwise the whole model will break down. The first definition of Maya is saturation, to be saturated with or filled with. This is how most of them will teach, you know, you're filled with this. No. The second definition is a modification of. It's a modification. Okay, so obviously this will be what? This will be, the proper teaching is it's a modification, and we will see what we mean by this. So for the ignorant person, these 5 layers, they become koshas, they become covers. Whereas for a wise person, they're no longer covers, they're not koshas, they're only maya. So they're only modifications of existence. Whereas for the unwise fella, there's no question of modification of existence. Well, I don't even analyze existence. They're what? They are saturations. They're filled with, I'm filled with food. I'm filled with sorrow. I'm filled with, you know, thinking. I'm filled with thoughts and so on. I'm filled with so on. You understand? So for the wise person, they understand it is not a cover, it is a mere modification. And we will see what this means now. Okay, next one. Anamaya kaha. Anamaya kaha. So, okay, so see, if you take a pot, you know, a pot is a modification of what? Clay. Clay. So therefore, we call pot what? We can call now a clay modification, right? That's what we can call. So if I hold a pot right now, I will call this what? Clay modification. So this means the material cause of the pot is the clay. So in that same manner, the material cause of your physical body is what? The material cause of your body is, in this model, food. But do you see food in your body? Do you see carrots and cucumbers and pasta and you know, everything else you've eaten? No. So in other words, it's a conversion process is taking place. Now, so this means what? There is a satya-mithya relationship even in reference to your body and food, because your body came from food, food came from from ground, ground came from minerals, minerals came from rains and so on. So look at this order. So even your body enjoys what? A mithya, in reference to your body, there's a satya-mithya relationship. So your body right now is nothing but what? A modification of ana, of food. Therefore, it's called annamaya. And then whether it's a kosha or not a kosha, that would depend on whether you identify with this modification of food. You understand? So yes, there is a modification of food, but if I identify with it, now it becomes a kosha. If I don't identify with it, then there is only a annamaya. So we're not dismissing annamaya, careful. We cognitively understand. It is there, but there's no kosha because there's no identification. Okay? So, like this. Now what happens? Ana rase naiva bhutva. So your body is born, sustained by food, and ana rupa prativyam yad viliyate, prativi, earth. So it's sustained by food right now, but also what happens? It merges and dies in earth, prativyam, in earth. Therefore it becomes food for other annamayas, for other bodies. So this is the circle of life. It becomes nutrients for other how do we call it, gross bodies, for other gross bodies in this world. And now we have next page, 63. Pranamaya kaha. Maya kaha. So what's pranamaya? It says it's what? 5 vital functions, 5 physiological functions. We already discussed them, right? They call them 5 pranas, right? Apana, samana, right? Udana, vyana, vyana. These are all names. You don't have to know them. They're just, we have in what? Chinese medicine, we have qi. We call it qi, the energy that cannot be seen, but it's there. And so they will put acupuncture. So this is dealing with energy. So in that same way, in the Chinese traditional medicine, they have a model. The Vedas also has a model. In our case, we have what? We have Ayurveda. Ayurveda is dealing nothing but with prana. So, if you went to an Ayurveda retreat, they will what? They would test your excretion. So they would test apana, because apana, how well you excrete food, tells how well it's being digested. So therefore, by this process, they will even ask you: is it soft? Is it hard? Was it difficult? And all of these questions. So this means they will look into your physical body and how the physical body is responding. That will tell that which is behind the physical body, how your prana is working. In fact, it even says that prana is also a vag indriya, so the 5 faculties of action, like hands and feet and procreation and excretion. So this means that if suppose excretion is or evacuation is not working properly, this means that the prana is most likely out of balance. So now in the Western medicine, we will attack the physical body by giving it whatever to change its chemicals, but there's a deeper underlying physiological issue called prana, and that is what Ayurveda is targeting. So the body is a mere effect, but the cause is actually the prana. Same thing with digestion. So they will, look at your digestion is there any gas coming out, and all of this. These are all indicators of your prana functioning. So therefore, these physiological functions, you can call them energy, right? They're energy. The energy that drives the body. Heat. When you experience heat in the body, that is prana. If your hands, we often have a problem. Hands are cold. The whole body is hot, but the hands are cold. And you're like, my God, I don't know what's going on here. So this means there's a prana imbalance. And so this prana is closely related to your 5 faculties of action. So this means that whenever there's a problem with a sore arm or sore leg, or walking is a little bit wobbly, because it's a close association between locomotion, that means leg, and prana. So now it could be likely an imbalance of prana rather than the physical ailment. Often we have patients with sore knees, and you would think that this is a problem of the physical bone, but then you prescribe the most counterintuitive prescriptions or practices of actually moving. You didn't have Tai Chi. They recommended a certain practice, easy practices to break down these blockages, these prana blockages operating through the body, and then this pain just falls away, just magically, almost. So so this is a deeper system called Ayurveda, and so it's directly meant to target this energy system of the body. Mm-hmm. And then Mano, okay, we've got next one. Mano Maya Kaha, Mano Maya Kaha. Yeah. So what? Mano. So manas, right? Mano Maya is just 2 words. So manas. So the last one was modification of prana. So your energy is a modification of physiological functions, and now your mind is a modification also, and what it consists of manas. Now we said mind deals with doubting, right? It's fluid. It's a fluid state condition, and 5 faculties of perception. So what does this mean? Why are they linked together? Because your mind is like a cockpit. It's where the 5 organs of perception, they receive external data from the world, and all of those 5 individual pieces of data, they have to come into one central place, and that central place is called thus the mind, which is why they're closely related together. So this means, if you hear something, if you see something, they're all individual pieces of data, right? So they have no connection. But now they come inside the mind and they formulate a representative image that is related to the environment. And this image forms in your mind, and thus until you do something with it, it remains in the mind. Until you say, I need to work with this part in my mind. Remember, this is a tree on the outside, but this tree has entered your mind. So now you say, I need to work with this part. And then when you finally say, okay, here's what I'm going to do, then it becomes what? It becomes the next Vijnana Maya Kosha. Okay? So this means the environment shapes your mind. Whatever you're experiencing right now is in your mind. And your mind is like what? To understand it, it's like this. Imagine one frame like this. Frame. And it looks like one smooth. It's all just frames. One frame after another frame after another, like this. But you just see a fluid person, a fluid experience, and yet they're just all frames presented before the screen of the mind, one after the other, right? One after the other. Okay, and then Vijnanamaya. Vijnanamaya kaha. Vijnanamaya kaha. Okay, same thing here. So when Atma, when pure awareness, the self-evident one, when that one identifies with what we call the Vijnanamaya, see, this another name for this is Buddhi. You heard Buddhi. Just intellect, where you analyze, where you evaluate, where you think. That's all Vijnanamaya is, just that thinking agent. So when Atma, pure awareness, identifies with Vijnanamaya specifically, then we call this person a subject. Now you become the subject. Now you become the knower. Now you become the Brahmata. Remember these words? Brahmata. So this is why I started out initially, I said subject, the Atma is, the one who cries, the one who walks. That's specifically not true. That is only true when Atma identifies with the intellect, and thus then I become the subject. And who is the subject? It is the called Karta, the walker, the speaker, the listener, the eater, the thinker, the one who analyzes. So now Atma has become the subject, being identified with the Vijnanamaya. So now you are what? A knower.
I got a question, because my mind has a difficulty to understand when you say Atma is identifying with. I understand that this is happening all the time, but as I understand Atma, it's not doing anything. It's just pure awareness, consciousness, no action coming out of there. So how is the connection between Atma and why is it identifying this kind of?
Sure. So it's another question, how can Atma, being, free of all things, how can that one identify? It can identify in reference to, who is identified? Better question, who is identified? I am identified. I am. This I, that one is identified, okay? Whoever that one is identified. So we need not analyze how can, the point is, I am identified. I do identify. Whoever that I is, that one is identified. Okay. Now, more interesting here, it says, so I want you to be, it's very important here. We often see in Vedanta, we always divide reality into subject and object. This is only preliminary, you understand? You're not the subject. This is the point. We often say you're the subject and everything else is the object. You're not the subject, okay? The subject is only when what I think that I am thinker, I am doer, I am teacher, I am listener. Only then you're the subject. So right now, you know that you're listening, right? You know that you're listening. So now suppose we were not having this conversation at all, and we would just go into an ordinary seminar about, relationships or something. And there we are sitting, ordinary people, we don't know any Vedanta, right? We don't know any Vedanta now. And we're just sitting going, oh, wow, okay. And I'm thinking, okay, I really have to do this. I need to follow up and make my life in order. So all of these thoughts are being ruminated upon. So in this case, in this process, like, wow, okay, I really need to change my life. I need to make a few improvements here. I need to travel. Okay, in that process, you're being what? A subject, in a subject. Okay, because why? You're being a subject because I is totally identified with the thinker. I is totally identified with this experience, how I need to make my life different, and I need to go here, I need to go there. Right now, while that's going on, I'm a subject, I'm a subject, I'm a subject. But is that process not known to you? That whole process is known to you. So therefore, that one who is thinking cannot be you. That's the point. So whoever is evident to this person going, whoever is evident to that person cannot be that person. So therefore, the subject is what? The thinker, not the one that is evident to the thinker. Understand? So therefore, so subject, object, I am neither. Okay, we used an example, in fact, in the dream. We said when you create a dream world, there is a subject and there is an object, and there are many other people. But you're neither the subject nor the object. In fact, the subject, the one who's looking at the dream world, okay, that's also made out of you as much as the objects that are being seen, is also made out of you. So you're neither the subject nor you're the object. How do you prove this? Because if you were the subject in your dream, then you could not, generate mountains. Understand? So in other words, you have to be free of the person that's looking in the dream and free of the mountains in order to generate both. If I was the object, I could not generate the subject. If I was the subject, I could not generate the object. Therefore, I have to be what? Other than both of them. Simple language. Subject, object. Atma identified with the thinker is the subject, and the object you need not worry about. That's why we said pramata, prameya, pramana. These three, neither of you are. You are not neither of these three. You're not the subject, you're not the object, and you're not the thought relative to the object.
But you're the knower of the thinker.
So you're the knowledge principle of the thinker. Yeah, so this means that the thinker is now now identifying with that thinker, I become the subject.
Is the sakshi the presence of the subject that's aware of the subject in relation to the object?
So sakshi, the word sakshi is when awareness, in the presence of awareness there's an object. Okay, so awareness has to be looking through a mind and observing at an object. And therefore...
Where does the subject then come in? Sakshi, subject, object?
Sakshi is the same thing as Atma, as pure consciousness, pure awareness. Okay? So when pure awareness or Sakshi identifies with an object, then that Sakshi becomes, when he identifies with the thinker, then that Sakshi becomes the subject. Okay? So simple language, Sakshi, Atma, same words.
Yeah. But the Atma in relation to an object, when there is an object, there is a subject. That's logic.
Yeah.
Then Atma is the subject.
Yeah, so now see careful here, because Atma is the awarer of the knower. The knower, see, the knower is what? The mind. You need a mind to be a knower. Okay? So when you say, I know about the world, see, there's knowledge of that fact. The knowledge principle of that fact is Atma, but the knowing instrument is what? The mind. But when I say, oh, I know things, I don't know things, now what's happening? They're as though one. They're what? Awareness and the knower and the mind are as though one. You got a face of... Okay, well, we'll get back to Atma, remember? We're not on Atma now.
So, I don't know, but you need to identify with the thinker to become closer to Atma?
No, so when you're identified with the thinker, when consciousness is identified with thinker, then that one is called a subject, the subject. Okay, so in other words, you're farther away from the truth now because you're identified with thoughts. So to create that space, so now you have to cognitively understand. There's only knowing about this because why? Because there's a mind, which is required to know, but the mind cannot know by itself, can it? It needs to be what? Blessed by consciousness to know. Your mind needs to be, right now you need to be blessed, your mind needs to be blessed by awareness, by you, to know about this. Therefore, the person who's going, asking a question, that's just a person, Evelyn, that's just a person that we give a name. But the whole, experience is, including of this person going like this, the whole experience is in the presence of, because of you.
So can you say that this Sakshi, let's say it, is aware of the subject, but is also aware of the object that the subject is experiencing?
Yeah, excellent.
And of the experience?
Yeah, excellent. Okay. So what? It's like, okay. So good summary. So Sakshi is see, a better word is Atma, because Sakshi means when Atma, in reference to objects, is called a Sakshi. So Atma, in the presence of Atma, there is this person called Evelyn. Okay, there is a person called Felix. There is an object called right now Andre, and there is experience of this whole thing right now, which is what's called pramana. It's just experience. It's just a thought that's occurring in your mind. So this means what? There is awareness right now of three principles. Think about this. Right now there's awareness of what? This person looking at this person. Okay, this person is called a subject, by the way. Subject. So right now there's awareness of this person looking at this person looking at this person. That's the subject, the one who's looking, the one who's experiencing. So there's awareness of what? Of the object. There's awareness of the object, and there's awareness of this whole experience. So this means there's three things which there is awareness of right now. So this means you are neither. You cannot be either, because to be aware of three, you cannot be either of them. Therefore, so what? So why is all of these three taking place? Because of Atma, in the presence of Atma.
I heard a teacher say, a Vedanta teacher, you're the dreamer, the dreamed, the dream and the dreamed.
Yeah.
So, and the content of the dream. So that's not true.
No. See, we have to make a distinction, which is, see, the waker, the dreamer, and what's the other one? The sleeper, is Atma, but Atma is neither of them. Okay? Because we said Atma is Satyam, and then everything else is Nitya. Okay? So this is a small distinction. Everything is you, but you are none of it. Okay? Just like three different pots, they're all clay, but clay is neither of them. So where are we? Vijnanamaya? Huh? Vijnanamaya, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So it says that Vijnanamaya is what? Buddhi, that means your thinker, plus the five sense faculties of perception, which is very interesting. So we said that the mind, the Manomaya, is, we said it's also the five faculties of perception, but Buddhi is also five faculties of perception. And you say, what's the big deal? But if you analyze it, it's actually very interesting. So suppose we take a snake and rope example, and it's dark. You don't quite see, what's going on. So it's twilight, and you think, oh my God, that's a snake. I should not walk over there. And there's fear, right? There's genuine fear and thoughts, and so you want to keep your distance. So in that state of doubt, right, you're perceiving. So what do we say about mind? It is the fluid. It's where doubt takes place. It's the instrument where doubt is possible. So right now, I'm recognizing what? I'm identified with the mind. Why am I identified with the mind? Because I'm not seeing what it actually is. Therefore, the mind, has to perceive the world. Okay? Now, after I come closer and I see the actual object, I see the rope. So now the mind has gone. I'm no longer identified with the mind. The moment I see the rope, I'm identified with? The intellect. So this means I continue to see the object, which is why the mind is associated to 5 faculties of perception, but also the intellect has to be associated with the 5 faculties of perception. Otherwise, if the intellect was not associated, that means what? The moment I actually see that it's not a snake, the rope disappears, right? In other words, you need to continue perceiving throughout the entire experience, the doubt and when the certainty takes place. Okay, therefore, what? State of doubt, I perceive. It's gone, I continue to perceive. So this means what? I went from mind into buddhi. And yet I continue to perceive, which means what? Logically, they both have to be linked up with the 5 faculties of perception. And then Anandamaya, okay, that's the next one. 16. Okay, Anandamaya kaha, Anandamaya kaha. So now it's going to say, so the nature of this Anandamaya is the causal body. And this causal body, what is it? It is the causal body. So, okay, it's simple. So Anandamaya equals causal body. Okay, simple. And what's the nature of the causal body, we said? Ignorance. Now, some contradictions are going to arise, which is why the causal body needs to be clarified. It says, okay, so far it says the nature of Anandamaya, in other words, the nature of the causal body is ignorance. And what is ignorance made out of? Now, it's ignorance made out of, how can you say that? It's made of malina sattvam. So in other words, don't say ignorance. What is ignorance? Lack of total knowledge. So in other words, I don't have total knowledge. So this means, and this in a certain language, we call tama guna. Now, what is this tama guna? It's not important. It's just that which allows for, like partiality to take place. It's just a cover. It serves to create one cover. So I'm now going to what? Cover this finger. So whatever covered this finger can be now called tamaguna. So if I cover this finger, what? So whatever is doing the covering, right? Whatever is doing the covering is called tamaguna. So it's the capacity to what? To hide. Okay? So therefore, what ignorance is made of this, see, it doesn't even say tamaguna, it's contaminated, malina satam, it's contaminated knowledge. Now, you cannot contaminate knowledge, actually. So what it really means is, it's lack of full knowledge. The full knowledge has been covered, that's all. Full knowledge, I'm going to cover full knowledge, therefore, I don't have all knowledge. Therefore, ignorance, you understand? And then, priyadi vritti sahitam. So, now, this Anandamaya, notice the word Ananda in there, Ananda, right? This Anandamaya, when you see every person identifies with levels of happiness. And they give 3 levels of happiness here. They say Priya, Moda, and Pramoda. Nothing special, just 3 words. So what this means is, when, for example, see, there just means degrees of happiness. Right? So the more you're happy, the more you go towards, the higher state of happiness. So suppose, you're receiving your new computer today, and they send you an SMS message and it says, your delivery is coming. And then you're sort of happy, like, this is fantastic, finally. And then you see the truck driver finally pulling in the distance into your driveway. Now what happens? Now you're more happy. And then finally, the package is in your hand, You snatch open that cartoon and you're holding that new gadget. Now you're maximum happiness. So when it says here, priya, so in other words, that level of happiness, right? Priya, little bit happy. Moda, okay, I'm more happy. Pramoda, maximum happiness. That means I'm now merged with the object. I'm now with the object. This is pramoda. Priya, little bit happy. Moda, somewhat happy. Pramoda, maximum happiness. So when you identify with these levels of happiness, you, Atma, are identified with Anandamaya Kosha. Confusion. How can this be? We just said that the causal body and Anandamaya Kosha are the one and the same things. And now what? Now what? So this means if I'm identified with ignorance, I'm happy. How do you now equate happiness and ignorance? You understand? So, on one hand, causal body is associated to total ignorance, nothingness, and on the other hand, what now? They're saying when you identify with happiness, you see your wife, you see your child, you see your mom, your dad, you see your friend. Now you identify with the causal body. Where's the connection between happiness and the causal body? Not only that, when you're happy, do you feel ignorant? Not at all. Oh, problem. Okay, so what's the time? So what does it say here? So this Anandamaya Kosha, the way to explain this is not strictly causal body. Because see, the causal body consists of what? See, this causal body, if you take a little circle like this, okay, we'll just put a circle here, and we'll call this causal body, and we'll give it a little pi. So now, the causal body we're referring to when we identify during sleep is, this portion. This is called tamaguna. But now, so what do we say your physical body is made of? 5 elements, remember? And what is your subtle body made of? 5 elements. What is your causal body made of? This we have not asked. Can you say elements? No. The causal body is an entirely different nature. It's made of something even subtler than the 5 elements called the gunas. Therefore, we got what? Of the 3 gunas. So, during deep sleep, you're identified with what? The tama guna of the causal body. And when you're happy, you're identified with the sattva guna of the causal body. Therefore, when we say Anandamaya Kosha, we're referring to what? The sattva guna portion. When we say causal body for sleep, we're referring to the tama guna portion. So this is how you resolve this causal body. On one hand, it's happiness. On the other hand, it's ignorance. Where's the connection here?
Can you say something about the rajas component?
I don't know. Rajas compartment. So I don't know about Rajas, but in reference to sleep, it is tama. In reference to happiness, it is sattva guna. Yeah. So the thing is, see, it has some portions of little bit of each. It has a portion of each. Okay. Question? And one more question is, why is it called Anandamaya? Because what do we say about the nature of Atma? Sat Chit Ananda, fullness. So this Anand, when you're happy, maximum happiness, it's the closest to the fullness of Atma. It's just a metaphor. It's the closest to Atma's fullness. Okay? And then finally, Etat Kosha Panchakam. Thus is the conclusion of these of these 5 koshas. The real question is, what's the purpose of this analysis of these koshas? Is it just for fascination and what's the real purpose of these kosha analysis?
Not to get confused.
This is it. Just to get to know it, befriend it, and go, so when I'm going through this energy like source, I am hungry. I'm hungry. Okay, yes. You know, what's hungry, right? Prana. This is a function of the prana. I'm restless. This is the function of the mind. I am smart, or I'm not so smart. This is a function of the Vijnana Maya, the buddhi. I am sore, got a sore back. I am hurt. I'm experiencing pain. This is a function of the physical body. So, in other words, these mayas, these modifications, are merely meant to point out the modifications, the 5 different modifications that you and I experience every single day. To get identified with them, they become what? They become kosha. Now they become covers. So this means what? It is a cognitive understanding. That's all it is, just a cognitive understanding. Despite the hunger and the circulation being sort of, off the whack or out of balance, it is just a function of these 5 levels of experience that is to be discerned as what? Other than I. So can you hear the significance of this method? It's just a model. It's just a model to help you out. It's something specific that you can focus on from now on. So now, what keeps Atma bound? What keeps Atma seemingly bound?
Identification.
Yeah, and therefore, with identification, therefore it becomes a kosha. Okay, that's it. Okay, so now when they say transcendence, some people will say you need to transcend the koshas. Is there a question of transcending? You cannot transcend the koshas because they're not your creation. So this means, what does transcendence really mean?
To identify?
Yeah.
Knowledge.
Knowledge, right? Knowledge. So cognitively understand these are orders of modifications that do not belong to me. Now, how do you?
It's kind of funny. So, what was the term again? Transcending. So transcending actually means referring to yourself.
Oh yeah.
Well, you could formulate it like that.
Okay.
It just means to cross over a border.
Crossover, yeah.
Yeah, literally. But in this case,
Okay.
it means
I mean,
like
yeah.
referring to Atman.
In a sense, so by transcending, you're referring back to.
If you use it in this way, it's funny. We can use it.
Then you're referring back to the one that's left.
Yeah.
Right? So so transcending is what? Cognitive knowing about what are these points of errors that you and I make. That's all these are. These are 5 points of errors that keep you and I bound. They keep the individual bound. So now, by understanding, first step, we no longer commit these mistakes. And slowly, the buddhi, right, even understands that one who understands. That one who understands is the buddhi. But that buddhi understands what? Even that one who understands is not I. You understand? In fact, the one who lights up the understanding is the real I. Okay, you understand this? In fact, this was the question posed to me yesterday. It was you, right? So is this a little bit more clear? Even that one who understands that I am not this buddhi, that very buddhi understands that even the thinker, right, that buddhi is not I. But whatever lights up that buddhi, which I cannot really define it, whoever that one is that lights up the buddhi, that one is the real I.
But it's necessary to be lightened. That was my question.
It's necessary.
To be lightened up, to be...
Of course, it's always lit up. It's always lit up.
Mhm.
But we also can't define it. It's not definable by language, isn't it?
Sorry?
Like the Satyam is not definable by language.
Yes, this is why I keep saying, don't have to define it, don't even call it I. Whoever that one is there, I don't even want to know it. The fact is, it's pretty obvious that, there's awareness, okay? It's pretty obvious. Now, we will do this next session. Now, that will give us logic in the next verse, how do we now conclude this whole, these 5 points of errors? How do we logically understand that they are not me? Like, how do we actually directly understand that without going through this long analysis? Okay, so what am I, this physiological function? No, I cannot be that. It's a long process. How do you do it like just in one go, instant? So this will be in the next verse. Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Avashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.